The hegemony had ruled the Orion Arm for 12,000 cycles without challenge. Their massive crystalline vessels commanded absolute authority across 200 star systems, their technological supremacy unchallenged by the various subjugated species forced to pay tribute in resources and servitude. Fleet Commander Vix Talon stood on the command deck of the unyielding Dominance, the largest dreadnought in the Imperial Armada. His forearms manipulated the neural interface as reports streamed in from the outer sensor arrays. Something had triggered the perimeter alerts in the restricted Sector 7. Home to valuable quarantined worlds, the hegemony was systematically stripping of rare minerals. "Anomaly confirmed, Commander," reported Sensor Chief Ulmira, her bioluminescent skin flickering with concern. "A vessel of unknown configuration has breached the quantum barrier at coordinates 428903. Vix Talon's compound eyes narrowed. "Display visual." The holographic projection materialized, showing a sleek vessel unlike any in the Imperial catalogue. Its design was angular yet fluid, with strange propulsion arrays that emitted a blue-white glow. No recognizable weapon systems were visible, yet it moved with deliberate purpose. "Impossible," whispered Vix Talon. "No emerging species has faster-than-light capability. Our suppression protocols ensure technological stagnation in all frontier zones." "The vessel bears no resemblance to any known species database," confirmed Ulmira. "But energy signatures suggest primitive fusion technology? How could such rudimentary power systems achieve quantum barrier penetration?" Fleet Tactician Dresvor interjected, his exoskeleton clicking nervously. "Reports from mining outpost. Kappa 12 indicate the vessel is transmitting on all frequencies. Message appears to be in an unknown language." "Patch it through," ordered Vix Talon. The command deck speakers emitted a series of sounds that the ship's universal translator struggled to process. Finally, it resolved into comprehensible speech. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the Earth Alliance vessel Pathfinder. We come seeking diplomatic contact. Your mining operations have been detected in systems we consider protected under galactic heritage protocols. We request immediate cessation of ecological destruction and dialogue with hegemony leadership." Stunned silence fell across the command deck. Not in 12 millennia had any species dared to make demands of the hegemony. "Earth Alliance," Vix Talon finally spoke, "no such entity exists in our records." "Search complete," announced the ship's intelligence. "Earth, third planet of an unremarkable G-type star at coordinates 18 to 2491, approximately 3,700 light-years from our position. Preliminary data suggests a Class 3 evolutionary world with primitive carbon-based life forms. Last survey conducted 800 cycles ago categorized the dominant species as pre-industrial." Vix Talon's mandibles clicked in contempt. "Isolate the intrusion. Dispatch 3 cruisers to eliminate this anomaly. Then prepare a task force to locate and sterilize the origin world as per Containment Protocol 9. "Commander," Ulmira's voice trembled, "the vessel has just activated some form of energy field. Our sensors cannot penetrate it." Before Vix Talon could respond, the ship's defensive alarms shrieked to life. The unknown vessel accelerated toward the mining outpost at impossible speeds, bypassing the preliminary defensive grid as if it weren't there. "How?" hissed Vix Talon. "No species possesses technology to breach our defenses." As the 3 Imperial cruisers moved to intercept, the human vessel suddenly vanished from all sensors, only to reappear directly beside the largest mining installation and, then most terrifying of all, it broadcast again on all frequencies. "This is your only warning. We have observed your empire for decades. The systematic extinction of species and ecological devastation ends today. Humanity has arrived." A blinding flash erupted from the mining installation. When visual sensors recovered, the massive complex representing centuries of hegemony engineering, was simply gone, along with the 3 Imperial cruisers. The human vessel remained untouched. News of the encounter spread through Imperial channels like wildfire. For the first time in recorded history, the hegemony instituted emergency protocols across all 200 systems under their control. The High Council demanded explanations, and Vixtalon found himself frantically coordinating a response fleet while struggling to comprehend what they were facing. 30 vessels now in formation, Commander, reported Fleet Captain Reznok, the most powerful assemblage of Imperial might in 3 centuries. Vixtalon watched as the tactical display showed the human ship, the Pathfinder, holding position near the remains of the destroyed mining complex. It had made no further aggressive moves in the 18 hours since the incident, simply maintaining its broadcast on all frequencies, a repeating message about ecological protection and demands for diplomatic recognition. "What intelligence have we gathered on these humans?" asked Vixtalon. Science Director Falnax stepped forward, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the command deck lights. "Our historical archives indicate the species was unremarkable. When last surveyed, primitive tribal societies, barely harnessing basic metallurgy, their advancement rate is unprecedented. Impossible, really." "Nothing is impossible," growled Vixtalon. "Only improbable. Their technology?" "That's the disturbing part," Falnax replied. "Analysis of the debris field suggests our vessels weren't destroyed by conventional weapons. Rather, they appear to have been displaced, shifted partially into another dimensional plane, causing catastrophic structural failure." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the command deck. Dimensional technology had been theorized by hegemony scientists, but deemed impossible to stabilize. "We've intercepted scattered transmissions from the human homeworld," added communications Officer Tezislar. "From what we can translate, they call their government the Earth Alliance, comprising their original planet and 17 colony worlds across what they term the local cluster. Most disturbing is that they appear to have independently discovered the dimensional transit equations that our best scientists have struggled with for millennia." Vixtalon clicked his mandibles anxiously. "The High Council demands action. We will eliminate this threat and then exterminate their species as a warning to others who might challenge hegemony supremacy." As the Imperial fleet moved into strike position, sensors detected a new anomaly. Small objects were detaching from the Pathfinder, dozens of them, each no larger than a scout vessel. "Drones deploying," announced Ulmira. "They appear to be scanning our ships." "Destroy them," ordered Vixtalon. The lead vessels of the Imperial fleet opened fire, their quantum phase cannons unleashing destructive energy toward the small human drones. To everyone's shock, the energy beams simply passed through the objects as if they weren't there. "Holographic projections," suggested Reznok. "No," whispered Ulmira. "They're physically present, but existing slightly out of phase with normal space-time. Our weapons cannot affect them." Suddenly, all 30 Imperial vessels received the same transmission, this time from a different human voice. "This is Admiral Kieran Reyes of Earth Alliance Fleet Command. We have completed our assessment of your technological capabilities. Your mining operations have eradicated 17 sentient species across this sector. This genocide ends today." The drones simultaneously emitted pulses of blue-white energy. Imperial ship systems began failing one by one. "They're implementing some kind of selective phase disruption," cried Falnax. "Targeting our weapon systems specifically." Vixtalon watched in horror as the mighty Imperial fleet, pride of the hegemony, found itself completely defenseless against a single human vessel and its drones. Most terrifying of all was the realization, dawning on him. These humans could have destroyed them all, but had chosen not to. The message was clear. The hegemony's unchallenged dominance of the stars had come to an end, and the galaxy was about to learn of their humiliation. 3 standard cycles had passed since the confrontation with the human vessel. Throughout hegemony space, the impossible news spread through encrypted channels, whispered in shadowy corners of space stations, and transmitted via coded signals between subjugated worlds. The undefeatable Imperial fleet had been neutralized by a single ship from an unknown species. On the industrial world of Vex-Tari, once the proud homeworld of the Corellian species before the hegemony conquered it centuries ago, resistance leader Malachi moved silently through the underground tunnels beneath the Imperial administration complex. Her translucent skin, an evolutionary adaptation to her species' once aquatic lifestyle, was carefully covered with light-absorbing fabric. "The data cores are 2 levels down," whispered resistance technician Brex, checking his stolen Imperial scanner. "Security protocols have been doubled since news of the human encounter leaked." Malachi nodded grimly. "The Imperials are frightened. For the first time in memory, they face something they cannot simply crush." Their small team progressed deeper into the facility. For generations, the Corellians had maintained a secret resistance, preserving their cultural heritage despite Imperial attempts to eradicate it, but never before had there been genuine hope of liberation. "Transmissions from the outlying systems confirm it," continued Brex. "The humans have established forward positions in 7 locations across hegemony space. They're actively dismantling mining operations and freeing indentured species." Malachi's heart raced at the implications. "And the Imperial response?" "That's what's remarkable," replied Brex. "Nothing substantial. The High Council appears paralyzed with indecision. Reports suggest their attempts to send additional fleets have been thwarted when their ships encountered some kind of dimensional barrier around the human positions. They reached the central data core, where Malachi placed specialized decryption devices on the main terminals. Within moments, classified Imperial communications began flowing to their secure receivers. "By the ancestral depths," gasped Malachi as she scanned the information. "The hegemony attempted to send an infiltration team to the human homeworld. The ship never arrived. Instead, it reappeared in orbit around the Imperial capital world, completely empty, with a single message carved into the hull." "What did it say?" asked Brex. "We are watching. We have always been watching." The implications sent shivers through Malachi's spine. The humans hadn't just recently discovered the hegemony. They had known about them for some time, observing, learning, preparing. Further, in the data core, they discovered something even more shocking: communications from other subjugated worlds, reporting sightings of human representatives making contact with local resistance movements. The humans were systematically connecting the disjointed rebellions across hegemony space. "This changes everything," whispered Malachi. "For generations, we've survived in shadows, preserving what we could of our culture while the Imperials strip-mined our worlds. But these humans, they've done what we thought impossible." As they finished downloading the classified data, emergency alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Imperial guards would be converging on their position within minutes. "We're compromised," hissed Brex, frantically gathering their equipment. Malachi reached for her weapon, prepared to fight their way out when the facility's lights abruptly failed. In the darkness, a soft blue glow emanated from what appeared to be a small probe hovering before them, unmistakably of human design. A voice spoke directly into their minds. "Resistance fighters identified. Extraction protocol initiated. Please remain still." Before they could respond, a shimmering field enveloped them. Malachi felt a brief sensation of displacement, and suddenly they were no longer in the Imperial facility, but aboard an unfamiliar vessel with curved walls and soft lighting. A human female stood before them, the first either had ever seen. In person, her dark skin contrasted with silver-grey hair, tied back pragmatically, and her eyes held both wisdom and determination. "I am Commander Imara Okafor of the Earth Alliance," she said simply. "And we've been looking for people like you across 42 star systems. The revolution against the hegemony has begun." High Counselor Dravthul paced the ornate chambers of the imperial sanctum, his prestigious ceremonial armor clicking with each agitated step. Around the massive crystalline table sat the remaining 11 members of the hegemony's ruling body, their usual confident demeanor replaced by undisguised fear. "3 more systems have gone dark," reported Military Overseer Krenzai, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "The mining colonies in the Xiphon Belt have ceased all communications. Preliminary reports suggest human vessels were sighted shortly before contact was lost." "This is unprecedented," howled Councillor Vexamora, slamming her appendage against the table. "In 12,000 cycles, no species has dared challenge our dominion, let alone succeed. How can one primitive world possess technology that outmatches our entire civilization?" The debate had raged for days as reports continued to flood in from across hegemony space. The humans weren't simply attacking Imperial forces, they were systematically dismantling the carefully constructed power structure that had kept the hegemony in control for millennia. The slave revolts on tertiary worlds 9 through 17 cannot be coincidental, noted Intelligence Director Fosmac. These humans are coordinating with the subjugated species, providing them with technology and tactical information. Most disturbing is their apparent ability to bypass our quantum communication interceptors. Dravthul halted his pacing. "What of the World Breaker? Has its deployment been approved?" An uncomfortable silence fell across the chamber. The World Breaker represented the pinnacle of hegemony weapons technology, a device capable of triggering stellar collapse, destroying entire solar systems. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, both times to quell major uprisings. "We cannot locate it," admitted Krenzai. "What?" Dravthul's mandibles clicked furiously. The facility housing the World Breaker was found empty 3 days. A goo. No signs of forced entry, no alert from the defensive systems. It simply vanished, along with the scientific team responsible for its maintenance. As the implications sank in, a soft chime indicated an incoming transmission on the Council's private channel, a frequency known only to the highest echelons of hegemony leadership. The holographic projector activated without command, revealing the face of a human male with weathered features and eyes that seemed to pierce through each council member individually. "Greetings, High Council of the Hegemony. I am Admiral Rohan Voss of the Earth Alliance Diplomatic Corps." "How dare you access this channel?" sputtered Dravthul, though his outrage was tinged with unmistakable fear. "Your encryption technology is impressive but fundamentally flawed," the human continued calmly. "Just as your society is built upon a flawed premise, that technological superiority grants the right to enslave and exploit. We've spent decades studying your empire, documenting your atrocities, and preparing for this moment." "What do you want?" demanded Vexmora. "The complete dissolution of the hegemony power structure and independence for all subjugated worlds. A cessation of all mining activities that threaten indigenous species, and reparations to be paid to the civilizations you've damaged." Laughter, tinged with desperation, erupted from several council members. "You cannot possibly enforce such demands," challenged Dravthul. "Despite your technological advantages, we command millions of vessels and billions of loyal subjects." The human's expression remained impassive. "We've already neutralized your capability to wage large-scale warfare. Your shipyards at Krekstar and Visnor have been disabled. And as for loyalty," the Admiral's lips curved slightly, We've transmitted the contents of the Imperial Historical Archives to every world under your control. The true history of how the hegemony rose to power through genocide and subjugation rather than the divine mandate your propaganda claims. On cue, reports began flooding in from across hegemony space. Mass uprisings, imperial governors assassinated, defense systems compromised. You have 6 standard days to issue an unconditional surrender, concluded Admiral Voss, after which we will no longer restrain the species you've oppressed from seeking their own justice. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. They've had the world breaker all along, whispered Krenzai. They could have destroyed our homeworld instantly, which means they don't want simple destruction, realized Intelligence Director Fosmak. They want something far more humiliating to the hegemony. They want us to face justice, said Dravthul, the concept so foreign to imperial thinking that it felt almost impossible to articulate. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Hegemony Council feared the future. The Great Hall of the decommissioned Imperial Fortress on Nexus Prime, once the hegemony's foremost military academy, now hosted representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species. The massive doors that had once borne the imperial crest now displayed a new symbol, a stylized rendering of diverse planetary bodies in harmonious orbit around a central star. Ambassador Lyria stood at the podium, her 4 wings gently pulsing, with the iridescent patterns that expressed her people's emotions, currently a mixture of hope and trepidation. As former High Priestess of the Azurian Conclave, she had maintained her people's spiritual traditions in secret during 3 centuries of imperial occupation. For too long, we existed in isolation from one another, she addressed the assembled delegates. The hegemony deliberately kept us separated, preventing any shared knowledge or unity. Today marks the end of that isolation. Around the circular chamber, representatives of species that had never before met face to face observed one another with curiosity and cautious optimism. Some breathed methane, others required high-pressure ammonia atmospheres, and still others had evolved in conditions of extreme radiation. Environmental adaptation fields, technology provided by the humans, allowed them all to coexist in the same space without harm. The humans have extended an invitation to join what they call the Galactic Cooperative, continued Lyria, not as subjects or vassals, but as equal partners in governance. From his position representing the silicon-based Thrun Collective, Elderpix transmitted waves of skepticism. While we appreciate liberation from the hegemony, we must question whether these humans merely seek to establish themselves as the new dominant power. Their technology clearly surpasses even imperial capabilities. Commander Imara Okafor of the Earth Alliance stepped forward, her movements careful in the higher gravity of Nexus Prime. A fair concern, Elder Pix. Humanity has no desire to replace one empire with another. That's why we're proposing a decentralized governance model where no single species holds authority over others. She activated a holographic display showing various star systems. For transparency, I've been authorized to explain how humans achieved our current technological position. 300 years ago, we discovered the ruins of an ancient civilization. In our own solar system, evidence of a species that had achieved dimensional transcendence. Their knowledge accelerated our development by centuries. The precursors, whispered Malachi of the Corellians. The Hegemony Archives mentioned theories of an advanced species that disappeared millions of years ago. Yes, confirmed Imara. We believe the same civilization left knowledge caches throughout the galaxy, but the hegemony systematically destroyed them to maintain technological superiority. We've located 17 such repositories and have begun restoring them. The Revelation sent a ripple of conversation through the assembly. "This knowledge belongs to all sentient species," continued Imara. "The Earth Alliance proposes establishing joint research initiatives where scientists from all our civilizations can work together. No single species will control these discoveries." Ambassador Lyria's wings flashed with patterns expressing deep thought. And what of the hegemony? Their leadership remains entrenched on their homeworld, and millions of their citizens had no direct role in the atrocities committed. "Justice, not vengeance," replied Imara firmly. "The hegemony leadership will face trial for crimes against sentient beings, but their general population will be offered integration into the cooperative with appropriate restrictions until trust can be established." The discussions continued for hours as representatives debated the structure of the proposed galactic cooperative. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of the hegemony, this new alliance would be built on principles of mutual benefit and shared advancement. Most revolutionary was the core principle introduced by the humans, that technological advancement without ethical development would inevitably lead to destruction. Each member species would contribute not only their scientific knowledge, but their unique philosophical and cultural perspectives. As the session concluded, Ambassador Lyria addressed the assembly. Once more, for generations, the hegemony maintained power through fear and division. They called themselves inevitable and eternal. Today, we prove that nothing born of fear can truly last, while cooperation has power they never imagined. The gathered representatives, former enemies, strangers, and now potential allies, rose in unanimous agreement. The Galactic Cooperative had begun. In the observation gallery above, Captain Ilara Voss of the Pathfinder watched with quiet satisfaction. The lonely mission she had embarked on 5 years earlier had indeed changed the course of galactic history, though not through weapons or dominance, but through humanity's most powerful innovation, the ability to imagine a different future and make it reality. The orbital platform above Earth gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of space, its crystalline structures representing architectural influences from 32 different species. Within the grand conclave chamber of the Galactic Cooperative headquarters, the 5-year commemoration of what historians now called the Liberation was underway. Admiral Rohan Voss, now serving as Earth's representative to the Cooperative Council, surveyed the gathering with quiet pride. Representatives from over 50 worlds occupied the chamber, their diversity of form and thought once considered an insurmountable barrier to cooperation by imperial doctrine. "The transition has not been without challenges," noted Councillor Malachi, who had risen from resistance fighter to elected leader of the Corellian Restoration Government. 7 hegemony holdout worlds still refuse recognition of the cooperative. "Yet, they pose no meaningful threat," replied Elder Pix of the Thron Collective. "Their isolation is self-imposed, and our offer of eventual membership remains open when they abandon imperial ideology." The formal proceedings began as Ambassador Lyria activated the central holographic display showing real-time images from across formerly imperial space. Where hegemony mining operations had once stripped worlds bare, restoration projects now flourished. Extinct ecosystems were being carefully rebuilt using genetic archives discovered in hidden imperial vaults. Most significant, reported Science Director Janali of the methane-breathing Vorquin, is the completion of the first joint dimensional research facility on Proxima Centauri 4. Scientists from 22 species are now collaborating on applications of precursor mathematics. The accomplishments continued. Former slave worlds now self-governing, reparation programs rebuilding devastated civilizations, and perhaps most importantly, the establishment of the Historical Truth Commission documenting both hegemony atrocities and the resistance movements that had fought against them. As the formal reports concluded, Captain Ilara Voss, her uniform now bearing the insignia of both Earth Alliance and the Galactic Cooperative, was invited to speak. Though 5 years had passed since her Pathfinder first entered hegemony space, she remained an iconic figure across the liberated systems. 5 years ago, she began, humanity made a choice. We could have remained hidden, protecting only our own interests as we mastered precursor technology. We could have built our own empire to replace the hegemony. Instead, we chose a more difficult path, building a true cooperative across species that had been deliberately kept divided for millennia. She gestured toward the massive window overlooking Earth. The hegemony believed their power was based on technological superiority, but their fundamental weakness was their inability to imagine alternatives to domination and subjugation. They could not conceive that diverse species might achieve more together than any single civilization could accomplish through force. A respectful silence fell across the chamber as she continued. Today, we honor not just the liberation from imperial rule, but the birth of something unprecedented in known galactic history, governance through consensus rather than coercion. From his position in the diplomatic section, former High Counselor Dravthul, now serving as the representative of reformed hegemony worlds, shifted uncomfortably. His presence remained controversial, but the cooperative's principles of rehabilitation over punishment had extended even to former imperial leadership who demonstrated genuine remorse and cooperation. The humans showed us mercy when we deserved. None, he acknowledged when invited to speak. The hegemony's 12,000 cycles of dominance brought technological advancement for our species at the cost of unspeakable suffering for countless others. We believed our superiority was manifest destiny, when in reality it was simply the path of least resistance, easier to conquer than to cooperate. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Voss and Captain Ilara joined Ambassador Lyria on the observation deck overlooking Earth's night side, the planet's cities gleaming like constellations against the darkness. The precursor archives we discovered on Mars contained a warning, reflected Ilara. They had achieved technological mastery beyond anything we've yet seen, but their civilization collapsed because they could not overcome their divisions. Yet they left their knowledge scattered throughout the galaxy, added Lyria, as if hoping that whoever found it might learn from their mistakes. Admiral Voss gazed at the stars visible beyond Earth's curve. The hegemony found some of those repositories, but hoarded the knowledge, using it only for domination. We chose differently. Below them, in the great docking bay, vessels from 100 worlds prepared for departure, carrying with them not just diplomatic agreements, but cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and something the galaxy had never known under imperial rule, the freedom to determine their own destinies. A single human ship invaded Imperial space 5 years ago, mused Ambassador Lyria, her wings displaying patterns of profound satisfaction. Now the fear has indeed spread, but not the fear of humanity that the hegemony tried to instill. Rather, fear among oppressors everywhere that their time is ending, as cooperation proves stronger than conquest could ever be. As new stars winked into existence in the observation window, ships activating their dimensional drives for departure, Ilara Voss smiled at the symbolism. One by one, points of light expanding outward across the darkness, carrying not conquest, but connection to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. The lone human ship that had once invaded Imperial space had truly changed everything, not through superior firepower, but through the most revolutionary idea of all, that diversity united was the greatest power in the universe.